Here at the Giver Marketing Network, we don't leave you drifting out in space. We connect you to a coach who will help you build and grow your marketing business. Our process acts as a guide on how to connect with other businesses, maintain good relations, and establish a presence on the Giver Marketing Network. Each member within this collaborative group will have the opportunity to leverage your talent and influence, a true network effect. If you are looking to collaborate on more projects, welcome to the Giver Marketing Network, the most trusted and highest rated collective of specialists on the planet. Here we have a group of like-minded professionals who focus on making valuable introductions and helping each other grow by teaming up. Imagine Upwork meets a network and a coach. The talent collectively includes services like visibility and SEO, creating logos, designing websites, managing social media, outreach messaging, visual storytelling, and much more. Think of what you could do with laser-focused allies, strengthening your business while offering your talent to the entire network. Click near this video for more information.
Hey, welcome everybody. We're live, so get ready, buckle up. We're going to be talking about marketing and networking and nurturing today. And specifically, I want to be able to wrap with Joel Snyder, one of our Giver Marketing certified team members. Say hi to everybody, Joel. Super excited to talk about nurturing with you today. He is one of our specialists specifically around nurturing and creatively using those ads and different methods to follow up and don't leave any of those cold dead ends, right, Joel? I love it.
Yeah.
So very fun, and getting those breadcrumbs going so that people feel like they're going, following a trail with you and a journey with you as you help them and serve them in any way that you need to as a business or as an organization. So welcome again to the Giver Marketing Network Masterclass. And also the Kingdom Warriors Masterclass. When it comes to marketing, we really love to serve different groups and organizations when it comes to your marketing efforts. We keep it very actionable, very specific, very first principles based so that it can be timeless for you in growing your brand, okay? So, hey, Joel, I'm going to do a little refresher on what we've been talking about over the last several weeks and maybe even a little bit on last week's content just to make sure that we're up to speed. And then let's jump in and talk about nurturing, my friend. Are you excited?
Sounds great. I'm tuned in, turned on, and ready to go.
Here we go. Okay, so we've been talking about, we've been going through a journey discussing the Giver Marketing Blueprint. This is what some of our team members are collaborating on as far as publishing a book around these principles. It's a fiction book, so keep your ears open for that. But these 4 pillars are the pieces that we walk our clients through in order to help them dramatically improve their marketing efforts. And the background on this is I was making phone calls, 100 phone calls a day with a company called Faith Highway in Austin, Texas. And I noticed that there were 3 or 4 things that the most successful companies, organizations, community leaders were doing in order to look legitimate in our modern era, okay? And the actual concepts were ancient. I mean, they were thousands of years old, but how we apply them in our modern day is totally different, which is what we're going to be talking about today. So there's always been a branding component, a visibility component, a promotional component, and a nurturing component for literally thousands of years. If you're promoting something or offering something or serving people in some way, these are the 4 pieces that are always present, okay? Now, whether they're at a high level or not is another question. And you might want to ask yourself, am I strong in maybe 1 or 2 of these? Do I need to improve in 1 or 2 of these as well? Ask yourself those questions as we go along today. Branding is something you want to do first, then visibility, then promotion, then nurturing in that order. And today we're going to be landing on nurturing, okay? Last week we talked about promotion, and just as a refresher, promotion does matter. It's one of those things where when you think of marketing, you probably think of advertising or getting the word out or promoting your brand. That's what we talked about last week, but we want to make sure that there's no spam involved, okay? Little to no spam is our goal as a Giver Marketing Network, and as Kingdom Warriors, we want to give value. We want to make sure that ultimately we're not bothering people. We're allowing them to see what we're doing, but we're not interrupting them constantly, okay? So we want them to feel like it's a warm invite, not a cold shoving match of conversation, okay? That's very important. We talked about ICE acrostic, which is a basic guideline for promoting your offer. Inform them, give a call to action, give engagement. Informing is like a monologue. Call to action is pretty straightforward. It's the next steps that somebody would take with you, and then somehow find a way to engage them, which we're going to talk about a little bit today in the nurturing piece, okay? So engagement, follow-up, nurturing, these kind of terms oftentimes work together. And we're going to talk about those 7 nurturing moments and the principles behind that, okay? All right, so we also discussed the idea that when we're promoting or advertising, we want to measure our results. You want to consider them a series of experiments. We also discussed the report method, which is referrals, events, print, online, radio, and television. Or you can think of it as audio and video, okay? But for the acrostic's sake, report stands for those things you see on the screen. So let's assume that we've promoted Joel, we've let people, we've encouraged people to get the word out, and now it's time to kick it into gear. We talked about all different aspects of audio and video and how that applies. So now we're going to talk about nurturing. And Joel, before we get into nurturing, I would like to ask you if you could share a little bit of your journey and how you got into the marketing space, and then we're going to jump right into your favorite topic.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'd love to. So I come from the corporate side of marketing, working with human behavior in the incentive industry. And so what we were finding was that we could affect company and corporate profits by simply modifying employee behavior and influencing consumer behavior. And so by providing good positive reinforcement and value-based information, people would accept the challenge to behave differently and perform better, thus dropping the benefits right to the bottom line. And so what I've discovered was, as I was working in the corporate world, that the local, regional, small business owner, medium-sized business owner was really influencing their local economies, providing jobs, providing streams of income for the city, provide public programs. And I just really developed a passion for supporting that influence of business. And so as we get into this conversation, the whole idea is creating good, strong, sustainable businesses that provide jobs and streams of income into the local economy. So as we look at overall how we're growing our business and how we're influencing behaviors, both internally and externally from the business, we want to see that we are providing value and that people are responding in a positive way. And so that's what led me to this company that we're doing now, and enjoying our interaction with the entrepreneurs and visionaries that are influencing their local economies and doing good in the world.
You do have a passion for that small, kind of that growing small business that wants to push through the barriers that are often there for our smaller entities that are wanting to bring on other team members and expand their tent pegs, if you will, or grow or expand or scale in some way. And you can't really do that without a great kind of promotion meets nurturing strategy. So let's jump into that a little bit today. Joel, I know that this is an overview, but we're going to get into the nitty-gritty details in just a few minutes. So here we go. Let's jump into it. So we just talked about branding, visibility, and promotion. As we check those and continually improve those, then we get the privilege of nurturing the audience that has said yes to something. They have nodded their head. They have indicated they would like to have a conversation. Now, here's the question. How important is nurturing? Joel, I know you have certain ways of maybe answering that question. Can you give us an idea of like, where's the importance level? We just talked about 4 pieces of marketing. Like, how important is nurturing?
So there's a couple of influencers that you want to think about. One is that the customer's buying journey is not a straight line. So if we're providing value-based information, good, strong, compelling content that allows people to continually engage in a discussion with you or become a repeat customer in some way, but all the way through this promotional journey, we're bringing them more and more value. And this is where the customer's journey now finds an entry point to interact with you. So
why do this? Like, why is this even a thing? Like, why is this why do we dedicate a whole session to just this piece? Can't we just like hope and pray that our promotional efforts just kind of do their thing and the phones ring or the emails come in or the leads come in or the conversations come in? Can't we just do that and it'll all work out good in the end?
Well, yeah, I mean, you can certainly do that, but we also know that 40% of revenue is generated from repeat messaging. So as you're setting up your budget overall for promotion, branding, and so on, you need to budget in a nurturing component because that's going to generate an additional 40% right to your bottom line.
Come on, I like hearing those numbers. Let's think about it this way too, ladies and gentlemen, because those numbers are they're industry wide. I mean, and they're specific. They're not industry specific. In other words, they're company and corporations and causes all see the similar type of statistics that come in. Another statistic to think about as Joel and I are going back and forth and just kind of rapping about this topic as we get into some of the details is if 1 to 3% of people are ready to buy right now, then at some point you're going to have 20, 30, 40% of people wanting to buy later.
Yeah, and keep in mind that it's 1% of 1%. So you've got 1% of the people actually looking. And of those, you're going to get maybe 1% of those people to enter into your funnel.
Right? So you got a small percentage that are ready right now. They happen to see your messaging. You're doing a good job of getting the word out. You're branded well. You're visible. They can find you on maybe other pages and other places and things. And they know you're legitimate and all this. The question is how do we get to that? What's the psychology of getting to that next level of engagement so they feel comfortable and the trust is built high enough to where they actually click on something significant? And now you're in a decision meeting. Now you're in a decision moment. Now you're in a place where they're actually going to buy something, not just learn about you or grow into some deeper awareness of you or trust a little bit more, or maybe even refer somebody to check you out. They're actually going to buy something. Okay, so let's get into it. Joel, engaging prospects with continued intentional conversations that don't bother them, but they add value. That it feels like a virtual hug. Whenever you connect with them, they just feel virtual hug or high five. There's the huggers and there's the high fivers. So it's either some kind of high five. Hey, don't forget about us. Let's talk about these 7 moments we mentioned earlier. All right. So if we know that 80% of sales or decision appointments occur after a minimum of 5 trust building interactions. Joel, have you seen statistics as high as 7, 9, maybe even 11 trust building interactions need to happen nowadays just because of all the noise?
Oh, yeah. And I think Microsoft just put out a study where it was closer to 20.
Come on. So we got to get, we got to have at least 5, right? I mean, we got to go. We got to start with something, right?
Yeah. And so, especially when we're talking about cold traffic, you're in that 20%, that 20 frequency level when we're looking at things like banner ads and retargeting people that are in the promotional phase. So this 5 trust building interactions is really a little further down the funnel, right? Because now it's a credibility issue. right? So trust comes because they believe you. And if there's no credibility, they're not going to believe you or take what you have to heart. So in seeing themselves in that situation and then finding you as a credible resource and now trusting that what you say is true or applies to them is an important part of the equation.
Okay, so let's think about this. We meet a new potential friend, just a relational dynamics 101, okay? We meet them we literally meet them at a county fair, physically, in person, okay? We just see something they're doing, we compliment their hat or something, and then all of a sudden you have a conversation with them while you're ordering your food or whatever, okay? Or at the concert, whatever is happening. Now, the question is this person somebody that I want to continue having a conversation with? That's the question, right? And so if it seems like things are going well, you want to have some kind of follow-up. You don't want to just say, "Hey, it was good meeting you. See you later." And then like there's never another conversation. That's what do you call it, Joel? A cold dead end?
A cold traffic dead end, right?
Cold traffic dead end. Cold conversation dead end. I love that imagery because it's exactly what happens. So let's make it easy for folks today. 20 sounds a little bit overwhelming to me, okay? But it's easier than we think. We can get into 5, 6, 7 trust building interactions pretty quickly without even thinking about it. The question is it in a system? Do you actually have a system that allows you to automatically and systematically follow up with your people? Well, let's start with just the basics, the introduction. Don't sell anything. I mean, can you imagine going up to somebody at a county fair or at a big conference or an event, and you start selling them something without even properly introducing yourself, like you did earlier, Joel? Like, thanks for sharing a little bit of your story and your journey, because it makes me feel like the audience would be able to relate to you. I really appreciate that. You want to tell your story. You want to get some contact information. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions as we go along today, or you want to see this full Giver Marketing Blueprint, or ask more questions about marketing, just ask questions in the comments. We're going to follow up with you. We're going to connect with you. We're going to make sure that we have your questions answered. I don't know how many people from our last summit we ended up following up with, having great conversations with. And if nothing else, we can just bless you with some good information. You know what I mean? So let's give each other contact information if we feel like this is a relationship worth having, right? And then, before we go into that, Joel, do you have any thoughts around just that initial introduction, whether it's virtually, in person, on the phone, like doesn't matter where it is, or what are some first principles around the first impression that you have with somebody?
I think it's just meeting them where they are. Using language that meets a person where they are is important. And research is underrated. I think you have to really understand your audience,
Okay.
right? And then know what some of their pain points are and meet them where they are. Your messaging is going to be solution oriented. So in an introduction, if you're saying, hey, I understand you and I can see the pain that you're in, and I would love to just chat with you about it.
I remember recording a video one time, Joel, that said, "Does marketing make you want to cry?" And it's almost acted as almost like a type of introduction, or a part of the introduction process, where you're just asking, like, is it frustrating? Is this something that has caused, you love what you do, but the marketing side is just difficult for you? And kind of peppering that into conversations, or the initial conversations, or the story even. I know for me, I was a pastor for 15 years, and getting the communication right about what we were doing in our community was just a big deal. And if it's frustrating, you're in the right place, because we want to help you get that follow-up system. That's really what we're talking about today. Some kind of, okay, so what happens after you get your initial interaction has happened? You know who they are. You got some contact information with each other. And you want to think of this as a two-way street. This is not a one-way conversation. They have information about you. You have contact information about them. It's not really that big a deal. It's just like communication 101. Okay. So now that we've got the introduction out of the way, Joel, nice to meet you. You know, all those kind of things, right? I know your story. You know a little bit of my story. I just shared a little bit. I was just, sharing a little bit of my background as well. What do we do now? Like, tell us more about how email should and should not be used.
It's a good one because email, an email sequence is the evolution of this whole telling the story, connecting, and providing an easy call to action. So generally, that introduction email is very, very clean. The second email that comes in is more identifying with that person and what their pain points are, and then inviting them into a conversation.
Good. So you're probably have some maybe some clarifying questions you might be asking. Get there. It's really it's a conversation through email, and you're opening that door. Some people prefer email, some people don't, but at least you have that door is open. It's a channel by which they can communicate. You can both communicate back and forth. Correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And we always, it's about action, right? So action begets action. So if we're asking a good question and they're answering the question, now you know how to respond, right? Or what to provide them in the way of value-based information.
Ladies and gentlemen, listen closely to that, because some questions are like, sometimes I'll get a question in email like, what's the best way to call you, or what's your phone number, or what's your email address, and it's like, you just emailed me. Like, why are you asking me these questions? They don't my phone number is all over LinkedIn. Like some questions you're just wondering, like, why are they sending this? It doesn't even make sense. And I'm kind of making a joke about it a little bit, but we've all gotten those LinkedIn messages where they're like, hey, how do I best contact you? And it's like, you just did. Like, this is the best way. Like, and so whether it's email or other social platforms, which we'll talk about in a second, make sure the question is potent and valuable, and it makes sense to the conversation you've already been having. It could be as simple as like, hey, it was great connecting recently, or having a reference point. Asking a question that would maybe help them and you both at the same time. Like, tell me more about what's been working with your marketing. Like, an actual question that would help them like think through some things and then help you maybe better serve them. And these kind of next steps are very powerful if you're able to leverage these mediums like email or social media, like I just mentioned. Nothing wrong with, once you connect with somebody, Joel, making sure there's an email, kind of a quick summary or a question that you're asking them, just kind of open that door. So now they can email you anytime they want. But then what about like, okay, so maybe I connect with, if I really want to follow up with them, what's wrong with connecting with them on LinkedIn and Facebook and maybe one or two places that you're paying really close attention to? So maybe they're more comfortable reaching out to you that way.
Yeah, it's always good to reinforce that you enjoy sharing other people's content and that you're truly interested in their views on their industry and challenges that they might be facing in their business. And not as a ploy, but simply to hear where people are. Because again, going back to that question, can we meet people where they are, is important. And so by having those, those connection requests that just say, I enjoy networking with other professionals and hearing their views on their industry. I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn or in our Facebook group or whatever it might be, right?
Yeah, I love the fact that, like, if you and I had just met, which actually this actually happened. So you and I just met. We were introduced by a mutual friend in the Sacramento, California region. This is a true story. we got connected. I think it might have been through email. I don't remember, but we initially got connected. We swapped stories, had a quick phone call. There were some emails that went back and forth, and then immediately we started engaging with each other on social media. Now it feels like this is getting like a little bit more interesting than maybe just a cold list where we don't have any reference point or anything like that. So just the act alone, ladies and gentlemen, of connecting with people on social media as a habit, after you get an email or after you have a quick phone call or after you get a text introduction or after whatever you're doing, include email in that we already do it naturally. Make it a system. Every time you meet somebody interesting that you want to follow up with, add them to your connection requests, either on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram or whatever platforms you prefer to communicate with. And you know your audience, as long as your audience is there, that's what makes the difference. So if somebody's not on LinkedIn, but they are on Facebook, just connect with them there. If they're not on Facebook because they're maybe not as old as I am or Joel is, maybe they want to connect on Instagram or some other place. Find where they're at. And as long as you have an account and you're going to check it consistently, you're good. Like, just make sure you're at least connected to at least one social media platform with these leads, or we like to call them conversations, because they're more than a lead. They're more than a name on a list. They're actually somebody that you're further down the journey with. And so we really specialize in helping with that. Okay. Social media, connect with people on social media. It doesn't mean you have to share everything that they put out there. It just means just connect with them and maybe share one or two things along the way. Okay, great. So let's make that easy. Here's the hard one for some people. Give something of value that they value. Okay. So it could be as simple as a half birthday card. My wife just got a half birthday card in the mail recently. And I think I got one as well from somebody. Well, that's memorable. That's interesting. That's different. You're not trying to like force me to buy something from you, but I'm definitely more interested because you paid attention. And if we pay attention to our audience, they will pay attention to us. So giving a little physical gift, a recommendation, a referral, something that's valuable to them, some kind of information that they asked for. Don't shove information down their throat. Like, here's 5 hours of training that you never asked for. Like, don't give them that. You're devaluing your product at that point. Give them something that they've hinted to you they need. And it could be related to your industry, or it may not be. But if you're that linchpin or that center of the wheel and you're able to give them some goodies, why would they not think about you in the future? Joel, any thoughts on like giving something that they value, which requires listening, of course?
Oh, yeah. I think it's important. And what's fun is you can also relate that to a dimensional piece of some kind. So if you're promoting a service, and let's call it the home improvement industry,
Mm-hmm.
there's no reason you couldn't give them a reminder dimensional piece like a magnet or a pop-up house or some kind of guy with a carpet sweeper, right? But it has a dimensional piece to it that then also communicates your brand. So you're giving them something that's useful, or you're providing them a link to an article that explains what you discovered in your conversations before in some kind of detail that they could utilize going forward. So there's lots of little ways that you can continue to be available and promote your brand while providing them something that's memorable, either as a gift or so on. Another area, and hopefully Tim will pop back in here shortly, but another area is in nurturing is to invite people somewhere where you're going to be. So business networking, going to a meeting, joining a group of like-minded professionals. These are all great ways to communicate with an audience that is similar in interest, where you can also provide your service. So inviting somebody somewhere, like to a networking group, right? Or a breakfast meeting. If you're in a religious organization, there's no reason you couldn't work that affinity group as a way to develop more relationships within that organization that then becomes fruit, right, for continuing to create the conversation. Personal notes. It's funny. I think that a lot of people overlook the value of just a personal note. And it doesn't even have to be necessarily a milestone in their life, like a birthday or an anniversary, although those are cool. But something very simple, just, hey, I was thinking about you the other day. I ran across this article and thought it might be useful. A little social media message. I enjoy myself personally, I enjoy reaching out to my network and just saying, hey, what are you working on these days? What sort of challenges are you facing with it? Or, hey, what was your latest success this week? I'd love to share that with my audience, right? And just having a nice little personal touch. It's short. Getting something in the mail is fun. Even if you have the ability to text each other, we know that the response rate of a text message is somewhere in that 10-second range. So if there's something nice that you'd like to say to somebody, shoot them a quick text message. They're very welcome. They're warm. And again, it just creates that credibility then and works on that know, like, and trust equation. People like receiving positive messages, or just a statement that you care, or a statement that you're there, right? So those are a couple little tips in the personal side that I like to use as well.
Yeah, I think the thing to remember here, Joel, is that this is not permission to spam anybody with your stuff. Just because you got their personal information, or they've built trust with you enough to, I don't know how many times I'm at like level 3 or 4 of the trust ladder, and people all of a sudden they think that that's permission to get extremely aggressive with their offers. And really, this is the time when you get emotionally and relationally intelligent. Once you have their information, if you genuinely care, you're not going to scam and like spam them with anything. Okay. What you're going to do is tactfully ask questions, send messages. A lot of times it's in the form of a question. You're not telling them what they need to do. You're asking them what they need. And that's worth writing down, ladies and gentlemen. You're not telling them what they need to do before you ask them what they need. They haven't given you permission to do any of that. We haven't earned the right to sell them anything. We're still in the nurturing process. We're in the warming up of the relationship, if you will. Okay. So if you're sending them a social media message, keep it conversational. Ask them questions. These are the same questions you would ask on a phone call or a Zoom chat. Just keep it really authentic. Don't overthink this. Let Joel overthink it with you. Like, don't overthink this just initially. Like, just get some experiments going and then bring Joel into it so he can bring the psychology and the research into the equation, and then take your conversion rate to a whole nother level while still staying authentic. That's what I love about Joel. If we go into phone calls, Joel, this is similar principles, but with a little bit specific medium, right? And all of these are different channels and mediums that we can communicate. It's funny because 25 years ago, we had like 2 of these channels.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have 7 we're talking about. It makes you wonder why it takes so many follow-up touch points in order to build credibility. Well, it's because everybody has access to these dozens and dozens and dozens of channels that a majority of our audience use. So the question is where's our audience? Do they use the phone? Well, I'd venture to guess 99% of them use their phone in some way, whether it's a phone call or a quick Zoom chat, even through their phone or whatever it is. At the end of the day, We want to have a way to have a short conversation that isn't overly cumbersome on a schedule. It's not overly complicated. What if they're, not able to get great Wi-Fi connection at certain times because of just electricity issues, different things? Maybe start with a phone call. I know there's some team members that, as we get prepared to bring in other team members for this conversation, where a phone call is just as powerful as a Zoom chat. It just depends on how you do it. It depends on how you leverage that medium. So I'm going to say phone call or even a short Zoom chat is fine. Don't turn it into it's not a sales call, ladies and gentlemen. This is a follow-up call. This is a how are you doing or a discovery or a story swapping call. This is this is the beginning of many phone calls conversation. That's what this is, okay? So we're not talking about a sales call here. We're talking about a follow-up call that allows for deeper trust building interaction. You want to prepare great questions. You want to ask questions like, what's your story? Tell me a little bit of your background. Where did you come from? What's the journey been like for you? How did you get to do what you're doing? And those, yes, some of those are worth writing down because I've had thousands of these calls. This is where Joel and I started to become friends, just like getting on the phone, just chatting it up and asking intelligent questions. Prepare them ahead of time. Do some research ahead of time before you make a 10-minute phone call. Give 2 options for next steps. Hey, if you're hitting it off, Joel and I were hitting it off right from the beginning. Joel's like, hey, why don't you come check out some of the things I'm doing, and I'll maybe check out one or two things you're doing. Now we're working on projects together. This is great. In fact, we're going to be meeting with a big client tomorrow. So listen, if you can keep it super relational, super authentic, and keep it super short, relational, authentic, and short, people on the other end of that phone or quick Zoom chat, whatever you prefer, because there's international conversations that require a short Zoom chat as well, or some kind of video chat is fine. Some people use, Facebook to do their calls and video chats too. So whatever method you prefer to have that initial discovery or story swapping conversation, use these principles. Don't leave long voicemails if you're using the phone. Don't spam people once they set up an appointment with you. Keep it really, really authentic. I mean, you can give them some goodies along, between the appointment and the time you actually talk. Between the time they schedule the appointment and the time you talk, you can give them goodies along the way. Just don't bother them. Like, give them something valuable. You know what I mean? So, Joel, what are your thoughts on random phone calls versus scheduled phone calls? What's kind of what have you been seeing over the last maybe 5 or 10 years?
Yeah, so a random phone call generally doesn't get answered. So you want to have a scheduled call as much as possible. And really what we're talking about here with these 7 touch points is a workflow. So when you're thinking about the phone call element or you're thinking about the email element, it might be helpful to actually sit down and sketch out a workflow of what your nurturing sequence would look like.
Come on.
Right? So here's where I want to send an email. Here's when I want to send a phone call. And in many CRMs, workflows is now part of the functionality. So you could actually move a contact from one place of the work to the next, and it prompts you on what to do next. So there's not a lot of forgetting on how to nurture these people. You've created this workflow. You've got a 7-step system that's been illustrated here, and there could be more. And within each one, there might be additional sequences. Like, for example, in the email, there might be a sequential email. In the phone calls, you might have 1 or 2 touch points worked into the email sequence, right? So, when Tim says, let's, don't overthink it, keep it simple. Yeah, we keep it all simple, keep it brief, keep it conversational. But then the overthinking part becomes in how we do it and where it fits into the nurturing sequence.
Okay, so you're saying make sure that there's kind of a consistency and a rhythm to how we're interacting with prospects and like pre-qualifying and just kind of making sure that this is the right fit, not only for your time, but for their time. Like, let's make sure this is the right fit, right? So, most of what we do in business should benefit both of us, right? Should benefit our audience and it should benefit us. So whether it's a quick phone call that you schedule, or in some cases, like if you're at a dental office or you're reminding like a reminder call, that's a different that's kind of almost like a follow-up after the sale. And we didn't even get into that today because we wanted to focus on like the before the sale conversation. There are two parts to nurturing, ladies and gentlemen. There's the before the sale nurturing, and then there's post sale nurturing. They have similar principles, but there's some slight nuances because the trust is already at a really high level once you've made the sale. So it's just more of a, hey, we care about you. Is there anything else we can serve you with? Who else do you know that would benefit from this? How can we help you more? Here's some extra goodies at no additional cost or at little cost. What else? All these kind of questions are slightly different after the sale. What we're focusing on today, if you think of it as a sandwich, there's before the sale, there's the sale, which is the kind of the peanut butter and jelly that's in the middle, and then there's the after the sale, which is the other side of the equation. Okay, so nurturing can be on both sides of the sale. We just wanted to focus in on the pre-sales nurturing or pre-decision nurturing. Okay, so hey, here I'll just share real quickly as we bring in Stacy. You can bring in some of the other team members. Let's have some fun having a roundtable conversation. I want to share a little bit of my personal nurturing sequence that happens. I definitely set up a. I think Tim has a little bit of noise in the background there, but he'll take care of that. Definitely want to share a little bit of the nurturing sequence that I've been using for years, and it's generated lots of conversations, really powerful. In fact, every one of us on this roundtable discussion, this is what happened. Okay, tell me if I'm wrong. I think this is what happened with almost every one of us. We had a quick phone call, whether that was a cell phone call or a WhatsApp conversation. Just a quick discovery call. Hey, tell me your story. What's going on? Those kind of things with you, swapping stories basically. Then I asked, what's your vision? What's your challenges? What's your 12-month goals? Had a quick either WhatsApp or a phone conversation in that regard. Then if that goes well, and we both have to agree, we both feel like we should have another conversation. Do you want to set up a longer Zoom chat, maybe 30 minutes, something like that? The first phone call is usually, or WhatsApp call is usually, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, something like that, just enough to kind of meet each other. And then we go to a longer Zoom chat that's 30, 45 minutes. And at that point, we're making a decision. Do we want to work together in any capacity? Can I help you with your stuff? Do you want to help me with some of my stuff? Can we help each other? Do we do session swaps? Almost every one of us here has done some kind of session swap or something where we're adding value to each other just to see how we work together. Just how does this work? And then at that point, it's on. Like, we start working on projects, generating revenue, helping each other. And that's why we love collaboration. That's one of the reasons that the Giver Marketing Network was born, because I had all these great conversations and we were having great collaboration efforts with each other. So that's a little bit of what I do on a daily basis, is have conversations with amazing marketing professionals that I'm proud to be like, a brother in the room, you know what I mean? Just kind of helping out whenever I can. So making introductions. If nothing else, if you have a great quick conversation with somebody and you like them, you can at least give them an introduction or two, and maybe they can give you a couple back. How much is an introduction worth? $100, $500, $1,000? Like, just depends on who it is, right? So ultimately, I wanted to be able to kind of share that with you. And we want to thank you for jumping into the nurturing presentation today. We challenge you to go to whatever group or channel you're watching this on. Share with us what are the 3, 4, 5 touch points, maybe even 7 touch points that you have that allows people to connect with you more and the follow-up to be more of a natural progression. So I'm going to remove the slide deck. for those who have a good video and audio going and those kind of things, if your audio is kind of messing up or anything like that, just put some comments in the chat box. We want to see your face. We will love you. We want you here. So we're good with all that. But hey, at the end of the day, we need to have a conversation, a little deeper conversation around nurturing. I'm going to call on Meghanathan real quick. And Joel, if you have any other thoughts as well, let's just keep the conversation going, have a roundtable discussion. Meghanathan, what are your thoughts around nurturing and the principles that we talked about today?
For me, the main word is trust, building trust. And what I've learned through listening about nurturing is that we need to build relationships based on their trust, and people make decisions based on trust. So if we to continuously communicate effectively to our future customers, they will definitely come back to us. They'll trust our word. They want to interact and engage with us. I mean, that's what happened when we started chatting. And I like the sequence that Joel mentions. You need to have a plan on how you're going to interact with them. You don't need to be overbearing. You need to add value to those people that you're talking to.
Okay, so the keywords I heard there were trust and plan. I'm going to challenge all of us, including myself, like, hey, let's think about the preferred order that we want because a lot of what we talked about, almost every business does these things. Social media, give something of value, phone calls. All of us have an introduction of some kind, like some kind of initial conversation. Like, what happens after the introduction? What do we prefer? Is it a phone call, then a bunch of email, like a sequence of emails, then social media and emails at the same time? Like, what do we prefer happen in a perfect scenario? Like, what's our perfect standard operating procedure when it comes to making people feel welcomed? And that's a great reminder, Meghanathan and Joel both, that if we don't have a plan, what's the old phrase? Fail to plan to fail. It's kind of a funny one. It's not always true, but it's a truism. Like, it's 99% of the time that makes sense, right? So, Ingrid, are you able to jump on and maybe share some of your thoughts around nurturing as we wrap up today, and your maybe anything that stood out to you, maybe a conversation point to dig in a little deeper on?
I think the one thing that stood out to me was conversation and trying not to overthink it. I began incorporating more channels into my communication strategy, so it's not a sort of a rigid nurturing process. Incorporating the things that are most comfortable depending upon the individual that I'm communicating with. Some of my prospective clients won't be on social media, won't know how to navigate certain other channels. And so I have opportunities to switch out different channels if they're international or what have you, and different things like that. Taking those things into consideration and having the conversation that is natural and incorporates their life interest outside of business.
Okay. So you're saying take this natural flow that you've been observing over the years, incorporated that into like a guided, authentic path that you want to get to a certain place of being able to help them if they're open to it. You're a coach, so you're always looking for permission and kind of that hunger and desire to make shifts and changes. That's what you're always looking for. So as you're doing that, it sounds to me like you want it to flow in a planned way, an organized way, but not feel so rigid that they have to come to your social media platform in order to even have a conversation with you. I know some people, like, if you don't connect with them on Facebook, they will not talk to you.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait a minute. What if you're super young and you're not interested in Facebook? Or what if you're like older and you don't or you've never been on LinkedIn before, or what if you don't like this, or what if you don't check your emails? I don't check emails, but I'll check LinkedIn. Some people are the opposite. They'll check emails, but they won't check LinkedIn. So we gotta work with the way people communicate.
Right.
And usually you want to have 2 or 3 options that you prefer. You're going to be checking those every day or two, and you're not going to miss too many messages from people. And I love the fact that you just brought the real raw conversation, Ingrid, about like, what if they don't? Let's keep it natural and authentic. And what if they don't connect with you on those that particular platform that you happen to be on all the time? Okay, figure it out, but don't change your whole business model just because they're not on that channel. Just make another little side dance over here, and then kind of bring them into whatever awesomeness you have in whatever way that is. Usually that's end up a funnel of some kind that ends up in like a Zoom chat or a phone call of some kind, and bring value that way. I know some coaches that they prefer Zoom, but if somebody wants a phone session, they'll do a phone session. Like it's okay to have a plan B, but have kind of a preferred method with some flexibility in it is what I'm hearing. Is that what I was picking up there?
Definitely. And it doesn't take long to determine that after you initially begin talking to them to see, what their comfort level is and what
Okay.
they prefer.
All right. Anything to add?
No, I think overall, definitely you want to have a plan, because it helps you to feel more confident. It helps them to feel more confident and gain trust within your ability to provide them services. But like I said, don't be too regimented within your plan.
Okay. So plan with a flexibility. I love it. Love it. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, as we get to Tim Solmonson's going to be sharing some thoughts here in just a second. Look each one of these round table professionals up. Look up these marketing professionals. Some of their names are a little bit harder to spell, and some of these that's okay. Look them up. Find them on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Find them wherever you frequent on social media. Find them on that channel that you prefer. Look them up on these places, and if nothing else, at least make a comment and say, "Hey, so and so, I'd like to circle back with you." Do it. Tag them in the comment right now if you don't know how to look them up, or you don't know where you want to look them up. Just tag them in the comments. They'll follow up with you. It's easier if you're able to kind of do it on the spot. So we want to encourage you. Make a comment, tag somebody that you see here on the screen. At least try to spell their name. We'll get you to the right person. We'll make sure it happens. Tim, I know that sometimes when you're traveling, your audio is a little bit. Maybe you're sitting by the ocean right now. We just don't know. But hey, what are your thoughts around the nurturing conversation?
Yeah, I think one part of the conversation that we haven't talked about a lot is the audience that you're trying to speak to with regard to, like in my case, I know that if I want a quality partnership, because I look at my business as I enter into a partnership with somebody, and I'm not interested in working with hundreds, even dozens of people. I want to build a strong relationship with just a few people and invest a lot into those relationships. So obviously the quality of those relationships is going to require, like Megan Nathan was saying, the trust building factors. And it goes both ways, because, I want to make sure that I'm working with someone that I want to work with, that I enjoy working with, that I feel like has character and they're competent in what they're doing. And that's also something that we need to demonstrate. That's one of the barriers that are going to keep us from having a relationship with someone, is if we don't demonstrate the character, which is trust building, or we don't demonstrate the competence and be able to deliver and show them, hey, listen, when you invest in this relationship, I'm going to deliver for you because I've helped other people in this journey, and this is how I've helped them. So having those testimonials and, being able to establish your credibility is also a big part that I think people, I know for myself anyway, someone contacts me and say, hey, we can get you, we can deliver for you in these areas. Well, I want to know who you worked with and how you've delivered for other people. So that would be another important thing to be able to.
This is an interesting comment, Tim, and I'm gonna jump in here because I know you well. We've worked together. Not only do we have the same first name, but we just we work together on some different things internally. You've helped us at the Giver Marketing Network with our noble purpose and how that ties into our brand. And you're like the brand evangelist, and you have a book with the same name. And so, like, we love your you have this warm, welcoming, like calming voice. It literally like, and it's just the way you communicate about marketing is kind of soothing, actually, in a way. So really appreciate that. But here's something that I just picked up on, and I have in the past too, is there's some people that want mass amounts of conversations. Okay. I think I booked like 1,000 appointments last year using some of the same strategy that you see here and some LinkedIn stuff too. There's other folks that are like, look, I'll have a few dozen, even 100 conversations, but I'm looking for those top 5. Those are my power partners that I kind of want to be like them. They kind of want to be like me. Like we're like friends that should have known each other a lot sooner. We're like I actually like hanging out with these people. Like, and when it comes to the way an introvert and an extrovert communicates and the bandwidth and the battery juice that they have, whatever juices them up, it's important to know who you are, ladies and gentlemen, on how you nurture. Because if you want 1,000, or even 500 appointments on your calendar next year, talk to me. Maybe I can help. If you want power partners that are aligned with your noble purpose and your identity as a brand, and talk to Tim Solmonson. This is not going to hurt you. Like, talk to us because we can help you. If you want to talk to Joel Snyder about your actual plan for follow-up, like the actual plan, like actually how you put this into a sequence, go to freeideasession.com. freeideasession.com. That'll get you on Joel's calendar, and then you can talk about your plan. If you mention Giver Marketing Network or Kingdom Warriors or some of the different power partners that we're involved with, he'll probably give you some extra goodies. freeideasession.com. Yeah, he gave the thumbs up. He's always good about that. He goes above and beyond. Look up Meganathan. You'll never meet another Meganathan, I'll tell you that. This guy is legit. Like, he's a MarTech genius. Look him up on social. He's on LinkedIn. He's on Facebook. He's all over the place. You can find him. Same with Ingrid. If you want a calm voice that just knows business and marketing and just makes you feel good just talking to her, look up Ingrid Rounds Hardy. Look her up. And if nothing else, at least book an appointment with one of us or go to givermarketing.com/schedule. You can book an appointment. We'll get you to the right person. But find whoever you connected with today, even in our roundtable discussion, just start with one of us. And we all know each other. So we'll bring in our power partners. We'll bring in our team members to make sure we got you covered. So book an appointment or mention one of our names somewhere, and we'll follow up with you, okay? We want your marketing to be excellent. We want your marketing to be less frustrating. We want your marketing to have an authentic, branded, visible promotion effort that makes sense. But then let's not forget about the follow-up. That's what we talked about today. We want that to be a nice, easy sequence where you already know what the next step is. Wouldn't that be nice to wake up? You're out doing your thing. You're all dialed in with a lot of these pieces that we were talking about previously. And you realize, you know what? I know what the next step is before I even start this conversation. And if that doesn't work, I know a plan B. I'll just switch the sequence a little bit, but at least I got a plan. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. We'll see you next Tuesday. Thank you for our guests and our panels and the roundtable discussion. We love you. And look for us on the same channel that we're streaming today. Talk to you soon.